CSPA's executive. Oh, okay. Did anybody else hear that?
Yep.
If not, that's
Got
okay.
it.
All microphone, our moderator will be Michelle, CSPA's executive director. All microphones will be muted with the exception of myself and the moderator. If you are given permission to speak, you will receive a prompt to unmute your microphone from the moderator. After you've spoken, please mute your microphone again, or it will be muted for you. Please raise your hand in the reactions command box if you wish to speak. After your question has been addressed, please unraise your hand. Once you've been unmuted by the moderator, begin by introducing the name of the member you are speaking for. For example, hi, I'm with member CSPA with, my name is Kadina, something like that. Questions or comments can also be made to the chat box, which go directly to the moderator. While the voting members have received advanced instructions for using the voting platform, when I present each motion to be voted on, we will wait an extra couple of minutes to allow the voters to ask any questions or begin a debate, such as I did with checking if there were any objections. A friendly reminder that personal attacks are not welcome and will not be tolerated. Before we begin, are there any questions on what I've spoken about? Give us some time. And Michelle, just checking in whenever you're ready.
I'm good when you are.
Fantastic. We'll now commence the AGM. Quorum, establishment of quorum. Quorum required for ordinary resolutions is 14 members. Quorum required for special resolutions is 28 members. We have 24 in attendance. Yay! Quorum is present. Note a majority vote will require 17 votes. Please note the votes will not be tallied live. A final result at of the election will be sent to all voting members once the voting application has been closed following the AGM, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today, just like last year's, if you were here last year. At this point, if you haven't already, I will ask the voting members to ensure that they have their ballot readily available to record their votes. I would now like to take a moment to acknowledge our board of directors, committee chairs, and office staff. You will have an opportunity to see them throughout the meeting when they make their presentations. Board of directors consists of myself, hi, Kenita Vanstone, Manitoba, Vice President Brian. Hi, Brian. You want me to give a little wave? We have Jason, who's in Saskatchewan. He's board of director. Give a little wave if you haven't already done so. Jocelyn, board of directors. Gord, board of directors too. I haven't seen his face, so I'm sorry if I don't see you wave if he's here. Treasurer Ian, and then our committee chairs, our beloved committee chairs. So on CNTC, we have Barb. On CWC and the Comp Dev, we have Monique. On the LTAD committee, we have Doreen. And then Campera, Anna. IT, Tarek. Wick, Allison. Judging, Randy. TNSC, we have Bill. And the GRC, Pat, aka Splat. In the office, the backbone of our association and our only two staff, we have the amazing executive director, Michelle, and awesome Judy for our exec secretary.
Kanina, before you keep going, can you pull your mic away from your shirt? I think yours is the one that's rubbing and making background noise.
Oh, interesting.
There you go. That's better.
Is that better?
It is.
Try this. Thank you for telling me. All right. The next order of business is approval of the agenda. This motion is made by Descenders Para Club. This motion is seconded by Northern High Skydivers. It is moved and seconded to adopt the following motion. Be it resolved that the agenda be accepted as presented. Does any member wish to debate this? Michelle, just let me know if there's anything.
You're good. Keep going.
Perfect. If you haven't already done so, please register your vote using Simply Voting. The next order of business is, does any member need to declare any conflicts of interest? Please indicate this in the chat or raise your hand.
All good.
Perfect. All right, let's carry on. There's no special business to attend to per the meeting notice. Special business will follow later in the AGM. Next order of business is the adoption of minutes of the 2021 AGM. This motion is made by Northern High Skydivers. This motion is seconded by Fizzy Skydivers. It is moved and seconded to adopt the following motion. Be it resolved that the membership adopt the last minutes of the 2021 AGM for CSPA held electronically on March 13th, 2021. Does any member wish to debate this? Chat or put your hand up.
All good.
Thank you. If you haven't already done so, please register your vote by using Simply Voting. There are no items tasked from the 2021 AGM, so this is an easy slide. We'll now be moving on to the section of the AGM for board, committee, and office reports. Each representative will give a short 2-minute presentation about 2021. Once finished, if anyone has a question, please raise your hand. I'll now ask Michelle to start us off. Michelle, go ahead.
Hi guys. Kanita, can you go to the next slide? Thank you. So pretty much the summary of everything that I can talk about from here is basically that this year was better than last year. I think COVID kind of sucked for a lot of people, but this year it was a little bit better than us. So we climbed up by another 50-ish RPs and had quite a lot more new members. The big thing that we've noticed is that any skydivers that weren't jumping have sort of neglected to renew their affiliations. And so thus we dropped a lot of skydivers since COVID, but again, we climbed up a little bit this year. So the goal is we'll keep climbing next year. Next slide, Kanina. Same idea with COVID and COPs. We went down quite a bit in 2020, but we climbed up a little bit in 2021 and did a lot better than we expected. So hopefully, same with affiliations, we will just start climbing. We're seeing a big increase in solos and A's because a lot of people have taken up skydiving during COVID. Next slide. Not much to show this year. We have not done an insurance payout claim since 2019, which is good. So let's keep that going. So we're still retaining at those totals for now. Any questions on the insurance claims? Next slide, Kanina. And I think the last one. Defense fund, we continue to constantly pay those out. This was a pricier year than most past years. So we did 3 more payouts in 2021. So we're currently at just under $60,000 for payouts from the defense fund. And I know we have a few more that are coming on the docket probably for 2022. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the financial statements. Next one, Kanina. That's it for me, at least. Oh no, I'm going to keep going after that. Go ahead.
Thanks, Michelle. First up, we'll do the Aero Club. Michelle, go right ahead as I continue on.
So next slide, yeah. Not much to report this year. Canada is back down still to a class 5 country, which means we pay less fees to the FAI, which results in us as an association paying less fees. But the more all of our organizations start to climb with registrations after COVID, we might have to reevaluate and go back up to another level of membership, and we'll have to pay more. Sliding scale, we basically have stayed with the same sliding scale, and this year Aero Club has opted to again drop our fees by 10%. So we're paying just a little bit more than last year with about $9,700. And just a reminder for people with sporting licenses, the 2-year extension is over, so any sporting licenses for 2022 have to be applied as brand new. Any questions for Aero Club updates? All right, next slide, which I think is still me again. Pat. Okay, so Pat's not here. He's with Rob McNeil out in Campbell River teaching a rigging course, but we've been working with him a few times on some things. So we're still working with him and the drop zones on the West Coast, dealing with some Nav Canada airspace issues. And I think that's going to be an ongoing thing. We did another DZ open house and a lot of talk about waivers. And the drop zone owners have asked that we keep doing that. So it's kind of an open house questions, which you want to ask for Pat. So we'll have that again next year. For the DZOs who might have missed the email, we sent a big letter to Transport Canada when they asked for comments about the lightweight data recorder requirements that are coming in. And one of our board members is working really hard to try to get into the stakeholder discussion groups so we can try to fight back on those requirements. And as just like last year, we're still trying to advise you guys on any of the COVID-19 rules. Any other questions for me to bring back to Pat? Because I probably won't have an answer. All right. Kanina, we're good?
I think so. We'll continue on. Thanks, Michelle. We now have ISC, Rena. Rena, are you there?
I am. So, can you hear me?
There you are. I sure can. Thanks. The floor is yours. Let's hear all about ISC.
Okay, well, this year was an interesting year. I mean, well, the meeting itself was pretty much the same. It was the first hybrid meeting, and there were some people in attendance, but a lot more on Zoom. And they found that they'll probably keep the hybrid meetings because this way they can get a lot more participation, and there were a lot more people voting and a lot more input regarding. But then. Let me just go with the Belarus situation. In 2020, Belarus bid for a world championships in style accuracy and canopy formation for 2022. It was voted upon and granted. However, due to internal problems and unrest and ongoing bad relations between Belarus and the EU, as well as the pandemic, Belarus was forced to cancel this competition and hopefully push it to 2023. This year, they decided that they would like to push it out to 2024. And they planned on updating their bid and resubmitting it in 2023. While that's going on, 2 bids were submitted for indoor for 2024, one Macau and one Belarus. And given that the FAI and ISC are very Eurocentric, the bid did go to Belarus. Once that happened, the NAA president has taken exception to the ISC granting any competitions to Belarus due to the forced landing of the Ryanair flight back in May of 2021, which is against the Chicago Convention. And this conversation was ongoing when Russia invaded the Ukraine. Due to the outcry from FAI members, the FAI memberships of both Russia and Belarus were suspended on February 28th of this year. The 2024 Belarus indoor event was pulled from the FAI calendar for the time being. However, it's still a problem. Even though no organizer agreement was signed, there was a deposit submitted. And the ISC is waiting to see what happens between now and the 2023-2024 plenaries to allow the plenary to decide what the fate of this event will be. If Belarus is still suspended, then there is no argument. However, there are still delegates that feel that athletes should not be punished for the actions of their governments and disagree with the FAI decision. In the meantime, the NAA has taken the position that Belarus should be suspended until there is a regime change due to the Ryanair incident. And this is where it all sits at the moment internationally. Going from there, we do have a full slate of competitions for this year. If I could show you the next slide. Okay, so we see in Belgium, there's going to be FS and AE. The World Games in Alabama seems to be running into some difficulty. The course is apparently extremely challenging, and they're concerned about the level of competitor, and they may be switching out competitors or are in the process of switching competitors, including the ones from Belarus and Russia who cannot attend. The technical course director has quit, and there are other issues. Everyone seems to be looking forward to Eloy, which is covering pretty much all events except style and accuracy. In 2023, everything seems to be good. The only thing I would say about the Wingsuit World Cup in the Czech Republic, it is very expensive for competitors. It was a discussion The only problem is it was the only event. It was the only bid put in for that event in 2023. So of course, they got the bid and they will be hosting that. And for the first time, I think for the first time, we'll be having World Championships in Israel in 2024 for FSAE and Wingsuit. There was a question whether or not the Muslim countries would be allowed into Israel. And the ISC president mentioned that we are not a political organization or a sporting organization, so the politics should be kept out of it. But Israel has said that they would welcome any and all countries who are willing to enter their country. And I think that's everything I have, if there are any questions.
No hands up. So thank you, Rena.
Okay, thank you very much, you all.
Thanks, Rena. That was very informative. All right, we move on to Allison. Allison will be talking about the Wig Committee.
There we go. You can hear me okay? Hi, I'm Allison. I'm the WIC chair. The WIC saw some changes over the 2021 season with the primary change of Michelle Masterson. She stepped down as the chair and I took over. The transition was super smooth and Michelle has continued to mentor me along the way, just making sure that everything transitioned nicely and all the I's were dotted and T's were crossed. We were sad to have one member of the team resign due to a work obligations, but we're excited to have a new member join who is active in our skydiving community. Currently, the WIC is looking to actively encourage the growth of our membership by at least 5 new volunteers, with hopes to have this addition sometime in the next couple of months. So our girls are out there. If anyone of you guys know someone who might be interested, they can certainly get in touch with me. In 2021, WIC looked to take steps forward by creating small and achievable goals. The top priority for our team was to focus on educating our skydiving community, not only about WIC, but the challenges women have in our industry. With this in mind, we registered for the Canadian Women in Sport 2021 virtual conference, which had an emphasis on gender equality and equity. We had 6 members of WIC attend a variety of the seminars, totaling a cost of $783.71. That was our budget part. As a result of travel restrictions due to COVID, the conference was held virtually, which allowed us to significantly save on expenses for participants. The conference was over 2 days and was a very valuable learning opportunity for our team. WIC, with the amazing writing of Jessie Robichard, I can't pronounce her last name right, but published an article on gender equity and equality in the September Canberra issue. Hopefully you all read it. It was phenomenal. Our team spent much of the 21 season brainstorming our vision and what we would like to accomplish in the coming years. A key focus was on the revitalization of the WIC in our skydiving community. We have created a list of small projects we are looking to achieve, and although some of these did not get accomplished as quickly as we would have liked, they are items we are continuing to focus on in the 2022 season. Some examples of such projects include irregular articles in Canberra written by women and about women in our sport to highlight achievements, challenges, opportunities, and so much more. We are also working to develop content of a video to promote WIC in our communities at drop zones and highlight the additional support we have to offer women in the sport. As in years past, WIC provided funding opportunity to women in the sport to help support and encourage development. In close partnership with the long-term athlete with LTAD committee, this continued in 2021. As a result of COVID, applications for funding saw a decrease compared to previous pre-COVID years. Although we did budget for $3,000 in 2021, we only provided about $900 in funding. Again, we feel this was a direct result of COVID restrictions on events throughout the country and hope to see increases to the events in 2022, and therefore would like to maintain our budget at that. Going forward, the WIC team is very excited to not only continue working on educating our community through articles and other tools, but we also have added 2 new projects for the 2022 and 2023 season. The first is rebuilding of the existing mentorship program that we are looking to propose for implementation to CSPA later in the 2022 season. One of our team members has been actively involved in a mentoring program through aviation that we all feel has aspects that can be easily used in skydiving. The second goal for our team is to host a Women in Skydiving virtual seminar in the spring of 2023. We feel both these goals would require minimal budgets. And so we think it's just a great start. The joys of COVID teaching us about all this virtual stuff. So it's a great way to access everybody. In summary, I'm very excited for the coming year and years ahead on the WIC committee, WIC team. The enthusiasm we have on our team is seen each and every time we meet and brainstorm ideas and work on our tasks. I look forward to sharing this excitement with the CSPA Board of Directors and our amazing community of skydivers across Canada. Thanks.
Thanks, Allison. All right, there will be time for questions if anybody has questions later on after all the committee reports have been read. We'll continue on to LTAD. Doreen. Doreen, the floor is yours.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Hear me okay, I hope?
Sure can.
Okay. LTAD has a small budget and primarily the funds go towards the athlete development, which Allison mentioned that we collaborate with WIC on. So for 2021, we had a total of 12 applications for the athlete development funding. Initially, we did do 2 rounds of applications this past year for the first time because we only received 4 applications initially, which all 4 of those were approved. But to try and use up the budget that we have available, we had a second round of applications. So we ended up with a total of 9 applications approved, one of which was totally funded under WIC. So of those 8 applications, all of them did use some of the funds. The athlete development budget is a total of $7,500 and the final tally was a total of 6,300 used for 2021. We hope to keep the budget amount for athlete development at 7,500 for the coming year, and the application process typically comes out end of March, beginning of April, following the budget approval at the AGM to confirm that we do have those funds to use. The other part of LTAD is to offer skills camps at the indoor tunnels. 2021, of course, that was not possible. Going forward, we're not sure what might be possible to do at the indoor tunnels for 2022. If we have budget available, then we'll look at what is possible, but also looking at changing the skills camps offered at indoor tunnels to a similar process as the athlete development funding, in that those people who wish to organize an event at the tunnel would then apply to LTAD for funding support. Previously, the skills camps at the tunnels have been facilitated by a member of the LTAD committee. And just with changes within the tunnels in the east and building relationships with the changes that have occurred and building a relationship with the tunnel in Calgary, we'll just have to see what might be possible for 2022 if we have the budget, and if not for 2022, then going forward for 2023. That's about it. We have one new committee member that the board has approved. She has been a member of the WIC committee, so she hopefully will be a little bit familiar with the athlete development funding process, which comes up quickly for new members who join at the AGM. So welcome, Christine Kuzma. And I am hoping to find someone who will take over the LTAD committee as chair, or whatever else might be possible. I think it's time that someone more actively involved in the sport takes over the direction for the LTAD committee going forward. So, and that's about it for LTAD.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Doreen. Fantastic. I will echo that, if not right now, but at some point, if you know of somebody that can fit the description that Doreen may need for a committee member, future committee member of LTAD, please do reach out to her or the office and we'll assist there. Thanks, Doreen. Next up, we have the TNSC with Bill. Bill, the floor is yours.
Hello. Hope everybody's winter is going all right. Committees stay the same with the same members. Now I've had the same committee for 3 years, which is incredible. I want to thank all my my members for being actively involved. We're going to start out with the number of riggers we actually qualified for 2021. A lot of courses were ran. We taught 19 RA students, 12 RA1 students, 2 rigger A2s and 2 rigger Bs. And we also trained 2 rigger instructors. So it was a pretty active year in the rigger rating world. Some of the projects we have planned for this upcoming year is we're still working on updating the EGR manual. We've also, a couple years ago, we were approached by smoke jumpers in British Columbia to have them have their own rigger rating. That sort of went by the wayside, but another organization in the aviation world has come to us and asked for the same thing. So we're in the process of having an aviation rigger rating. It's in the works right now, but that's an ongoing project. And then we constantly have to update our rigger program, the rigger rating program. Things change daily, as we know, in skydiving, and same with rigging, so that gets updated. It's an ongoing process. Next of all, I'm gonna reintroduce Allison, because Allison's going to give us the 2021 Safety Management System Summary Analysis Report. So please take it away, Allison.
Thanks, Bill. And sorry, there's numbers and data crunching here. So the Canadian Sport Parachuting Association integrated the SMS, or Safety Management System, into the existing Accident, Incident, and Malfunction, or the AIM system, back in 2014. Since then, the yearly SMS report has provided general statistics gathered from submitted AIM reports, with a breakdown into 4 categories within the skydiving industry: tandem skydiving, student skydives, experienced skydives, and aircraft. The CSPA Technical and Safety Committee concluded in 2019 that there were areas of opportunity for a more in-depth SMS summary analysis report provided to the skydiving community each year. The primary goals of the SMS summary analysis report are to assess areas of opportunity gathered from AIM reports that pose potential risks in skydiving, minimize recurrence through education and awareness, and utilize trending analysis to modify and/or implement skill development material as needed. With these goals in mind, the Technical and Safety Committee is hopeful that the skydiving community has another tool in the toolbox to support their long-term development in our sport. Pardon me. We know that all occurrences are not reported through an AIM report for a variety of reasons. Most noted from past years is the lack of AIM reports when an occurrence is not considered significant and/or did not result in an immediate injury. It is our hope that the AIM report is utilized more frequently, even in occurrences that seem less significant, such as low speed malfunction resulting in emergency procedures being implemented and a successful landing in the designated landing area. Although it may appear it was a non-event because no one was injured, the occurrence itself can be useful in identifying trends and opportunities for further education. Full reports and the SMS analysis can be found on the CSPA website under the safety category and the safety management system subcategory. It is strongly recommended for everyone to review these. In 2021, a total of 75 AIM reports were submitted. This is a decrease of 7.32% over a submission of 82 AIM reports in 2020. Looking at the overall breakdown, student occurrences saw the largest increase in 2021 compared to 2020, while experience occurrences saw a decrease of 20.93% and tandem occurrences recorded a 7.4% decrease. Given that 2021 and 2020 had unique external factors to the regular skydiving operations across our country and globally because of COVID-19 pandemic, the data was assessed for correlation between increased occurrences and skydiving currency. Although remaining current within our industry is of an immense value to all skydiving safety, the trends seen as we analyze further into 2020 data did not significantly identify lack of currency as the main area of potential risk. However, the Technical and Safety Committee continued to monitor and assess the potential impacts of currency as it relates to specifically reported occurrences in 2021 skydiving season. Of particular concern that arose from analyzing the combined 2021 and 2020 data was the potential correlation between student occurrences and instructor currency and drop zone student programs. Reviewing the breakdown of total occurrence types, data indicated most of the overall increase was seen in reported incidences, with an increase of 100% in 2021 compared to 2020. In reviewing the trending analysis specific to incidences, we can see an increase of 36.11% over a 3-year trend, 20% increase over a 5-year trend, and 41.67% increase over an 8-year trend. This can be accounted for as we look closer at the occurrence types within each category. We can see 12.5% increase in landing occurrences within the student category in 2021 compared to 2022, with a 5-year trending increase of 224%. When looking at other occurrence types, particularly at a 5-year trending, it is encouraging to see a 20.53% decrease in accidents and only a slight increase of 1.67% for malfunctions. Although overall fatalities are low, we are continuing to see a decreased trending of 66.6% over 3 years, 40% over the last 5 years, and a 25% decrease over the last 8 years. And I'm sorry, I know this is a lot of stuff, but I do believe it's a really important stuff. So as far as now just the breakdown in the tandem category, landing occurrences accounted for 44% of 2021 AIM report submissions. This is a 5-year trending increase of 94.29%, however, a decrease of 36.36% over 2020. Looking at the factors that were described in AIM reports for each occurrence related to landing, the following information was gathered. 63.64% was related to the customers not lifting their legs upon landing, and 18.18% was related to an ineffective flare. Malfunctions in tandems accounted for 26.92% of 2021 AIM submissions, which is an increase of 16.67% in 2022. The breakdown of occurrences resulted in a partial and or complete malfunction, identified that 57.14% performed emergency procedures successfully due to line twists, and 28.57% performed emergency procedures successfully due to tension knots. The student category, based on the total submitted AIM reports for 2021, accidents accounted for 58.82%. This is an increase of 11% over 2020 and an increase of 20% over 3-year trending. We are seeing a decrease though, if we look at the 5 years and 8-year trending, it's a 8.3% decrease over 8 years. It was indicated that 5.8 was the average jump number for students who presented an occurrence. Landing occurrences with the student category in 2021 compared to 2022 has an increase of 224%. Looking at all the factors, 62.5 was related to flaring technique. 50% was related to lack of response to their ground control instructor, the GCI. And 50 was related to a low turn during final approach on landing. 25% was due to wind conditions. Some of these had multiple issues that have impacted it, and that's why the percentages don't add up. Although malfunctions only account for 23.53% of all student occurrences, deployment category accounted for 35.29%. Of most notable concern is that there were 4 situations in which the automatic activation device, or the AAD, was fired. This is for students. Accounting for 66.67% of the student deployment occurrences. It was identified that in all 4 incidences, the common factor was loss of altitude awareness. The distraction during free fall that led to altitude awareness, led to the altitude, was lack of altitude awareness, was loss of heading control in 3 of the incidences, and a delay in releasing the pilot chute on 1. In the experienced category, based on the 2020 reports, accidents accounted for 41.18%, which is a decrease over 2020 of 6.67%. Although incidents only accounted for 17.65%, we are seeing an increased trending pattern of 33% over the last 3 years. It was indicated that 965.55 was the average jump number for experienced category who presented an occurrence. Next year, we're going to start looking at the median as well. We're going to keep adding some stuff in here. A closer analysis of the experience AIM indicated that deployment occurrences accounted for 52.94% of total submissions. These were 50% was related to line twists and 11% was related to hard openings. Under further analysis, it was identified that 2 deployment occurrences related to an AAD firing. 1 occurrence of the AAD firing was during a riser turn. It was further discovered that an AAD mode was not set correctly. The other occurrence was a result of loss of altitude awareness and delaying main parachute deployment, creating a 2-out situation when the AAD fired.
Allison, sorry, love.
Yeah.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second. We love this information and we want it all, but I'm just thinking for time restraint here. Can you give us the brief points following the next however many pages you have left? And then because we also have this information coming up, because if you've been madly writing this stuff down, you're going to want to make sure you take note of the next Campera. And then
Yes.
The website will also definitely have this information. So Allison, do you want to like briefly sum up what's the main takeaways that we can have?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I am almost done. Sorry, I know that it's a lot of information, and this is kind of the broken down stuff. It is in full report on our website. It's also coming out in a summary of it's also coming out in Campera. For the experienced jumpers, I think, well, the last thing is just our recommendations. Well, the fatalities, we did see 3 fatalities that it did occur in 2021. One was with an experienced jumper. The other was a double fatality on a single tandem. They're all still under investigation, and so there is nothing to analyze or report at this time. And then I guess what I could just say in closing, we have moved all of our recommendations as far as the analysis takes a lot of time, and it's very valuable to all of our jumpers. There's recommendations for all levels, including instructors, drop zone owners, DZOs, riggers, packers, and of course the jumpers. And we direct you to areas within our team over the years has worked amazing on PIMS. We've got other source documentation, and it's really strongly recommended that everyone looks at this. AIM reports are confidential, but we look at trends. I also then take it and compare it to our technical and safety team looks and compares it to the US data, so all throughout North America and worldwide. So the ISC puts out a report and we look at all of that as well. So this isn't, this is information that we see and trends. So I can just really stress to everybody, make sure you're submitting AIM reports. It's not a shame thing. It is actually helping the sport. And so, yeah, sorry, I know it's a lot of information, but in all honesty, the only way we're going to make this sport safer is if we actually start paying attention to the information that we get. And so I do believe it's really valuable for everyone to make sure you go look at it. So sorry that was long, but yeah, it's all there. And there's more stats online. Like I just gave you a briefing of the top stuff.
No, thank you so much, Allison. If anything, this shows us how important it is. And maybe after and this is just randomly here, after the Campera comes out and everybody has had some time to actually absorb some of the information, maybe we can set up a sort of seminar as we have been doing with GRC and Pat after that's released for further information and questions and follow up from that particular article. So I'll jot this down and add that up for something to go. We have questions that will wait until after all the committees. So make sure your questions are set aside, write them down. And then once we get to everybody, all the committees reports are done, we'll come back to any questions and concerns and whatnot after that. Okay. So
we have questions from Niagara Skydive and Skydive Toronto.
Okay. Do we want to answer these now or after all the committees?
If they're related to the TNSC, yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, who was first?
I wasn't paying attention. So let's start with Skydive Toronto. They're first on my list.
Okay, Skydive Toronto.
Jen, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, you're good.
Hello.
Floor is yours, Jen.
Thank you. I have a very quick question, please. Could you confirm that we have 10 days, I believe it is, to submit the AIMs?
Correct.
Oh, 10 days.
Yep.
10 days. Okay. Thank you very much.
But in the event of a serious accident or a fatality, we need immediate notification.
Of course. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Skydive Toronto.
Hi, you said that this information was available online, and I'm just wondering where online. I can't find it on the website, on the CSPA website. So
I can post a link.
Thank you.
I'll share it in the chat.
Skydive Toronto, do you want to put your hand down? Unraise your hand. Thank you. Were there any other questions, Michelle? So I didn't leave any options I didn't leave any other options for the other committee reports. Sorry, I thought we were leaving that till all the committee reports are done. Where do we want to take a moment to ask any questions from LTAD or the GRC or anything of that was previously noted? I think there's somebody in the chat.
Nope, that's just me. There's no
okay.
hands up. We're good.
Thank you. All right, continuing on. Thanks so much. Sorry, Bill, was that Bill and Allison? Are you guys done?
All good.
Thank you.
Much, everybody.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Allison.
Thanks, Allison.
Continuing on, we are now hearing from Monique from the CWC. Monique, are you there?
I sure am. Hi, everyone.
Hi, gorgeous. Floor is yours.
Thank you. So let's see. We have our happy little chart, which we try to update annually, which shows us that our number of courses is still kind of running pretty level year over year, but the number of candidates that CSP is training for various coach and instructor ratings is decreasing kind of steadily over time. We ran 38 courses last year, which is pretty close to our 10-year average. We're running an average of about 3 candidates per course, which is down from about 4 about 10 years ago. So it's definitely a long-term trend. In 2021, as I think you all know, we kept the currency requirements at 60% of normal, but we are increasing those back to regular for 2022. So if you're renewing basically after the AGM or thereabouts, you're going to see that the currency form is back to normal. We did that because we felt that pretty much most of the country had an opportunity to have a half-assed normal season last year. So we should be good. Having said that, if you didn't have a normal season and you have some sort of capacity issue related to lockdowns, shutdowns, whatever, please do just reach out to us and we'll work with the drop zone or the group to find a solution. We ran a learning facilitator seminar, graduated 4 fabulous new learning facilitators. So that's great. We're increasing system capacity. For Coach 3, CP and Wingsuit, we provided a third pathway. So in order to prove your awesome skills at wingsuiting or CP, instead of doing that by competing or attending a record, you can now do it by completing some jumps to show the skills. So that's online. Let's see. There were no COP changes over the winter. So your COP exams rolling into next year are same as last year. And what else should I want to say here? Look at my notes. Oh, our major project for next year is to start a PIM2A rewrite. So PIM2B was done a while back and it's looking pretty good still. PIM2A is getting pretty dated. So that's our big project. If you happen to be interested or passionate about a particular section of PIM2A, we would love to have content input. So please reach out to us. Thank you to the office for continuing support on formatting things, to the translators for putting things in both languages, and to Izzy for ongoing making things pretty support, and to all the wonderful committee members. I am done.
Thanks so much, Monique. Does anybody have any questions for the CWC? I think I do see a hand up from Skydive Toronto. Michelle, please do tell me if there are any other hands. Skydive Toronto, go ahead.
Again, unmute.
Oh, unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, super. I have a little bit of a lengthy question and I'm not sure if this is the best time to address it for Monique or after.
Well, let's hear it and then we can decide.
Okay. I'd like to revisit, please, the subject of accepting foreign rated AFFIs and go over to some degree the challenging process that is currently in effect.
Okay. So just for everyone's background information, the process to convert from any other FAI rating to PFFI is 2 jumps. So you have to write the written test and then you have to do 2 jumps. And that does happen to be the same process as it would be if you were going in the other direction to most other countries. Do you have a specific question about the process, or? So we feel it's pretty darn fair, to be completely honest. We feel it's reasonable and fair.
It's more the requirements, Monique. So it's my understanding that a foreign instructor is required to have 50 completed jumps. And we're finding that we have quite a bit of interest in foreign instructors wanting to come to Canada because obviously it's a great country. And they are quite advanced in regards to being tandem instructors and videographers. However, some of them have only recently graduated the AFFI course. And so my first question is, do you have any suggestions on helping Canadian drop zones, if they do hire for an instructor, bridge the gap from having possibly less than 50 AFF jumps without compromising the third-party liability insurance?
Do we have an answer for that right now, Monique, or is this something we should sort of mull over a bit and give you a proper answer?
I do feel that the challenging process by and large has been very successful, but there seems to be now quite a gap to my perspective that needs to be addressed, because originally it was, I thought, the challenging process put into place because the CWC wanted to prevent watering down of the PFF program that we have in place. And by and large, I think that it's done that, but there are these other circumstances that I feel that it didn't address.
I'm going to interrupt here just for a second. Great pointers, Skydive Toronto. So I'm going to recommend you draft an email it to the CWC, and that way we can get some continuity here, and as well as established information written down and going forward. So draft up your concerns, what you observed, and what you even suggestions if you have to this email is what I would recommend, and you can send it to the CWC email address. Does that work for you, Monique?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm happy to have a phone call about it too, just for.
Oh yeah, whichever works.
Super.
Right, and for everyone's information, I think that, the idea that you have to prove that you can do the thing you say you can do, that's not a crazy idea, right? And that applies to all the ratings being converted from Canadian military or whatever. And again, this is not like a unique Canadian situation. I think if you look at other national organizations, if you want to go teach a thing in their country and you say you can do it, you're just going to need to prove it, right? So anyway, I think someone has a question as well, but.
Sorry to interrupt you. The challenging process is not really so much what I'm questioning. It's the requirements to get there. And so I will definitely formulate an email. A suggestion that another DZO brought up in Ontario was that perhaps we could employ some sort of apprenticeship program where a PFFI with a given, like a senior PFFI with a given amount of jumps could apprentice somebody who is newly AFFI rated only up until they have the 50 jumps, which is required to challenge their rating. I'm definitely not discouraging the challenging process. It's how do we bridge the gap for newly AFFIs to get to 50 jumps.
That's an interesting idea. I mean, our whole model is based on an apprenticeship general structure anyway, so that's not crazy. Hadn't really thought of it that way.
Thank you, though.
Thanks so much, you two. Niagara, Scott, did you want to actually say anything, or are you okay now? Assuming Tim is still here. Sorry, Michelle, do you see Tim still online?
I don't, so I think he just accidentally signed off, but if he comes back on,
We'll if he comes back, then we'll get Tim back on. So thanks for the questions, Scott of Toronto and Monique. Although I think the next slide is still for you, Monique.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. So you're not gone yet. Hang tight. So we now have a committee report for CompDev, which is also the gracious Monique. The floor is yours again, Monique.
Great, thank you. So in 2021, as the slide says, we did not do very much. For 2022 and 2023, we do have a previous CompDev grad who is taking all of the NCCP modules. So we are supporting Cesar in that effort. If he's here, shout out to Cesar, who's competing and coaching in accuracy. So that's basically the activity for 2022-23. If there is interest in a course, we'd be happy to run another one. That is all.
Thank you. Any questions regarding CompDev and this report? Seeing no questions, we'll continue on unless Michelle pipes in and sees something else. Thanks, Monique. Next, we have the CNTC. Barb. Do we have a Barb here?
Hello, we do.
Hello, Barb. Floor is yours.
Okay. I'm sorry I didn't actually send a written report. Truthfully, I just didn't have time to type it. So I'll go from what Michelle has put up on my board here. No, we had very limited activity in 2021. In as much as anything we did mostly didn't come to fruition. In April, we were, prior to April, we were focusing on the indoor skydiving competition in Belgium, and we had a very good list of people going in all the different disciplines. And then, it was canceled in 2020, moved to 2021, and is now moved to this year, 2022 April. So there was a lot of work put in for no result. After that, we had the Mondial in Russia, in Tane. Again, we had representatives in most of the disciplines wanting to, not really wanting to go. In the first place, Canada never wanted to go to Russia to the Mondial. And we voted against it at the IPC meeting. but it got postponed from 2020 to 2021. And we ended up, after the board and we ourselves as a committee were considering whether we should send anybody to Russia, considering the COVID situation and the government guidelines. So it went back and forth. And in the end, we decided that if the competitors wanted to go, then we should support them. And once that option was given to competitors, we had only 2 people who said they really wanted to go. One of them had to withdraw because the cameraman disappeared. And the other person was Joey Allen, who competed in canopy piloting. And there was a lot of support for Joey. And I'm kind of grateful there was only one competitor who did decide to go, because he ran into roadblock after roadblock after roadblock just to get into the country. And it's all supposed to be organized so that people have basically a visa waiting on the desk just for them to phone up the embassy and they would get it. And it was such a runaround for him. I'm surprised he ever made it there in the end, really. But he did. So he was happy about that, but not so happy about his results. However, he later entered the US Nationals and came 20th. And we think that was a pretty good accomplishment. He scored every round. Everything was perfect for him, or as perfect as it could be. So after Tanai, the next competition turned out to be Dubai in December. And I'd said to John, you know what? If Dubai has a competition and it actually takes off, because it had been postponed twice, I said I could really use a trip to Dubai. So I went as the head of delegation, and we had an FS team, an accuracy team, and one person entered in CP. It was a really good competition, much smaller than the traditional DIPCs that have like 4,000 people hanging around. There were 300 competitors, I think, plus all their support people and that. And everybody did well up to their expectations. Catastrophe, our 4-way team, won silver in a jump off. And our canopy pilot, Yannick, who's brand new, was just wonderful. He opened the competition with a perfect score. And as he said, he was tied for first place with 6 other people. But he was a wonderful, really wonderful competitor. And our accuracy competitors all performed up to their standard as it could be, with a very noticeable lack of training that they've been able to do. So it was a very successful time for everybody there, and everyone had a really good time, and they represented Canada very, very well. We also had in between all that, we had the nationals at Voltige, which comes under our purview, but pretty much so much of it has been taken over by other committees to organize their part of it. But it was held at Voltige in July. They were incredibly accommodating hosts. Anybody who didn't go to the nationals there missed a really, really nice competition. Nice drop zone, nice competition, wonderful hosts. And even better than that, we actually had a very, very good meet director, Marcel Foguet, who actually is somebody who knows how to be a meet director. Although he claimed he didn't know a lot of stuff, but he was really an excellent meet director. Everything that I heard back from competitors, the people who the competition is actually for, they really appreciated Marcel's hard work. So scores all came out. People in general, I think, had a really good time. It's a lovely drop zone, and all rounds and all events were completed. And it's just kind of a side note, because it's not so serious with us as a a discipline, the sport accuracy event. It was interesting. What happened? It was getting towards the end of the competition. There was still time. And the hosts dropped the entry fee to the nationals for anybody who wanted to compete in sport accuracy. So it immediately went from 3 people entered to 14, I think it was. 14 or 15 people entered, and it was just a marvelous event. It was so much fun to watch and participate in, and people really had that lovely feeling you always used to get at competitions, where people just went, I need to do that. How do I do that right now? And so it turned out to be really, really good. And I would hope that something like that is something other hosts can see the benefits of. Granted, it's only one discipline and it's a fun discipline. So it was really, really great. And all the people enjoyed it. And somebody from out of nowhere won, even though there were accuracy people entered thinking they were going to walk away with all the medals. So it was really neat to see. So that was very, very successful. And we thankful Tej over and over again for their very hard work and participation and organization, all their staff and their volunteers. So other than that, things sort of go along as usual with the CNTC. I get quite a lot of requests from competitors, people who might like to be competitors, people who don't want to be competitors anymore, and so on and so on. And really every day of my life, there's somebody asking a question about something. And so we take care of all that. We finally, after many years of never having a meeting, we had a Zoom meeting. Our committee had a Zoom meeting. Just because we never have a meeting doesn't mean we don't do anything. And we have always just done our work by email, and it works out good. The committee members are really responsive and responsible. And so we get on with everything. But we had a Zoom meeting, which isn't as good as meeting together, but it did give us a chance to see each other face to face. And it actually made me think that maybe being on the CNTC isn't such a bad thing after all. And really great meeting. And I realized after it finished, actually I have to thank Jason Warren, because he's our liaison, and he actually pushed for a meeting and set it up and was the moderator and that for it. And we had a lot of things to talk about, and the 1 hour meeting went on to 2 hours. There was no fooling around. It was subject to subject. And after I got off the meeting, I realized that I ended up with a really long list of things to do. And I've been doing them every day since that meeting, which was in February. So you can imagine I'm kind of busy. So having the meeting was really good. We're planning on going on with that. And Jason has been a strong armed into carrying on moderating it for us. Good. So that was really good. So since then, we actually are currently right now in the middle of team selection, and we have a full list of the 6 disciplines for the 2 world meets this year, one in Czech Republic. I can't pronounce the name of the city, Stradons meets or something like that. And I will learn by the time it comes up. And the other in Eloy. And it's really great because when the World Championships are in North America, it's so much more affordable for our athletes to go than where they're usually in Europe or Siberia. That was a biggie. So it's much more affordable for people. And that most of them are familiar with Eloy anyway. So that's kind of a nice one. So we've got a whole list, and we're just now working through final choices for wingsuit and canopy piloting, which doesn't mean other people couldn't apply to the committee, submit training plans, and ask to be considered for any empty spaces we might end up with. But currently it looks like we may have a pretty full slot, maybe one spot on the CP team left. And I understand there's a Canadian CP training camp in Zephyr Hills in a couple of weeks' time. So we might have somebody who is competent and capable of entering a first category event from there. So that's what we're currently up to, and going forward, or maybe going backwards too, we are working on the manuals, as hard as it may be to believe. We had a situation with the records where I physically could not update the current and past retired records. So Judy and Michelle took over doing that. I sent them all the paperwork that had been done. Everybody who's had a record since 2017 have all had certificates. They got certificates on completion of the record and the submission of their applications, but it's not been entered in a record book. It's a long story and I'm not sharing with you why. But anyway, that's coming, and the text will be updated soon. We've updated PIM 5 with it, which is a National Teams Manual, which is very important for this year. And we also have a part of the draft for PIM 4A done. So they're all coming their way. Other big change is Martin LeMay has stepped down from the committee after, I think it's 7 years with us. He's pursuing a life in Florida as a firefighter. So we had a space available, and fortunately for us, I offered or asked Ben LeMay if he would join us, and after due consideration, he accepted. So we're welcoming Ben to our committee, and we think that he will be a very good addition. All the members of the committee are former or past Canadian team members. Oh no, former, current or past Canadian team members, except for Rena, who is an international judge of quite a large standing. And so I feel that they're the people who should be on the committee. There's even there's not gender equity, but there's enough women to balance the enough men on our committee. So I think it's really well balanced and it's extremely knowledgeable. All these people have the experience that's needed to make decisions for the committee. So that's, and then future from that, of course, it will be going on to the various international competitions that Rena mentioned, whether we'll have a delegation or not have a delegation. Mostly we like to, if somebody wants to go. And the other thing we did, I want to say our committees felt very strongly about the situation in Ukraine, and we actually wrote to and encouraged the board to object to, or contact the Aero Club of Canada to endorse the sanctions taken by the FAI towards Belarus and Russia. And although politically, yes, we want to stay away from such things, but our team members all have experience in Eastern Bloc or former Eastern Bloc countries, Eastern Europe, and we have friends, and we think it's important to stand up for them. So that's a really emotional one for me, but I'm really proud that my committee stepped forward and they wanted to do it. Lee was who actually wrote the letter to the board, and we all contributed after the fact and got it going on its way. So we do hope the ACC goes forward and not only backs the FAI executive board or what executive members, but also that they encourage all other air sports in Canada to follow suit and not endorse Russia or Belarus in any of their competitions. Yeah, so that's not it's a positive note to end on, not necessarily a happy note. So that's about what I have. If anyone has any questions, concerns, or complaints, I'm happy to listen to them and share them with the rest of my committee. Okay, that's it.
Thanks, Barb. Was there any questions for Barb?
Nope.
Nope. Seeing no questions, you've been released, Barb. Thank you very much for your time. Next, we will continue on to Randy. Randy, it's your turn. Are you there?
Yep, I'm here. Hello, everyone.
Thanks, Randy. Floor is yours.
Okay, effectively, the judging committee has remained the same. We've got the same 4 members. Total number of judges overall in the country is 11, 10 of which I would consider to be active. And of those active judges, all of those 10 have at least 1 national rating, and most of them have more than 1 national rating, and some have, many of them have international ratings. So the community of judges is quite good at this point, although we would always love to have more. The problem that we have, I'll discuss a little later, is how do we create more? As far as the regular business is concerned, we have updated the rules from last year, and the rules again based on the international changes that have just occurred and just been published. We will update our competition rules on them as well. We've got 2 other publications, one the PIM4E, which is the judges rating program, and that is being updated principally because of some of the challenges that we are having with the current ability to maintain our currency and progress. The other publication that is of significance this year was following the competition in Voltige, and as Barb said, having an exceptional meet director led us to taking the opportunity to produce a meet director's handbook. Because one of the things that we felt was a little bit missing was something to allow the meet directors to quickly go through and pull up a number of tidbits of information that are in other publications. So for example, there's lots of stuff in the hosting manual that a meet director would have to review and go through in order to be able to do his job well. But he also has to go through all of the competition rules, because there's little tidbits of information in there that a meet director would have to be aware of in order to run it smoothly. And we felt that this was something that needed to be done. So on her initiative, Vera, the chief judge, gathered much of this information and produced a draft, which is currently out for comments to various individuals to fine tune it so that it would be of use to anybody that gets selected to play this particular role in the national competitions. And in the end, it's one of the critical positions to make the whole evolution go quite smoothly. As far as our current issues, and they really come down, they're all related. They really come down to being able to recruit judges, train them, and then maintain the qualifications. And effectively, to do that, you need to have competitions. 10 years ago, that wasn't necessarily a big challenge because we had all kinds of smaller competitions going on, and our program was geared to be able to allow people to do that, get experience, and then move forward. Currently, we effectively only have 1, maybe 2 competitions in Canada at all. And as a result, there's just not that many opportunities. So fortunately, again, this past year in Voltige, we put forward a specific effort to make sure that we took as much advantage as we could of the event to be able to give the judges that needed qualifications in certain areas the opportunity to get them to be able to progress forward. And as a result, we have managed to progress and elevate some of the ratings for a number of our judges. That said, we still had, as a result of the processes that we did do, we still ended up with some judges having their ratings downgraded slightly because we haven't had particular types of competitions in the last 4 or 5 years. Things are looking up. One of the areas that we are going to focus a little bit more attention on now is our seminar, which in the past we've always done in person. We're going to try and do it online this time in certain ways that will be quite easy because it's been mostly discussion of rules, discussion of procedures, that sort of thing. Some of the other challenges will be the actual practice of judging. Now, in one case, the in-time system that we use for scoring in the competitions has been, a version has been created that you can use on the cloud. And this would allow us, we believe, to be able to do that kind of practice judging at any time using the cloud. Initially, there was a question about what that expense would be, but it looks like it's going to be quite reasonable. The only difficulty we have is when that was created, it was created really only for FS, so just for one of the disciplines, one of the video disciplines. We may be able to modify it slightly to be able to make use of it doing canopy formation, but that's yet to be determined. As for the other video disciplines, it's not really set up for that. So as a result, we would still have to try and come up with a way of perhaps doing them through a Zoom conference or through Teams. And we're going to look at that over the coming year to see if we can take advantage of those technologies to be able to still do what we need to do in a manner that replicates as much as possible doing a practice judging in a room altogether. As a result, this is going to be a trial, pretty much a trial and error type thing that we may have to do not all at once, the way we have done in the past, but perhaps a number of smaller little events with smaller groups and maybe only one or two disciplines at a time in order to get it done. But it's something that we think we need to look forward at trying to do in order to alleviate some of the pressure that we have as a result of not having lots of competitions in the country. The only other thing I'd like to say is a little bit of comment on CP. That is one of the events, of course, that we are challenged with because we haven't run lots of CP events over the last few years in the country. We still currently have, as a result of their international connections, I'll say 8 qualified CP judges that have ratings. 4 of them are at the FAI level, 3 of them are the portfolio level, and 1 at the provincial level. Unfortunately, we have lost a couple judges recently or lost their ratings in CP because they're at the bottom level and we just haven't had the opportunity for them to maintain that qualification. We're sitting okay, but we really need to come up with a way of trying to move forward with that particular discipline because it's one that's still going quite well, but without actually having events. And that particular type of event, which is not reliant on video judging, it is difficult for us to maintain qualifications unless you have them at the international level and you are afforded the luxury of being able to get selected and to go to visit those particular competitions. And that's all I have. Available for questions if there are any.
Amazing, Randy. Thank you so much. Any questions for Randy? Seeing no questions. Thank you so much, Randy. DZOs, if you ever have a little competition on site, make sure you connect with Randy to see if there's a way that that committee can assist you. If I can put in that little plug. I think there's a question. Brian, CSPA VP. Brian, do you have a question? You're on mute if you're still.
Yeah, I had to get the unmute going. Randy, does it have to be an official competition? So for example, I have a camp ops, Parachute Silver 40 competition every year that we judge ourselves. And we don't have a budget to hire judges, but if the judges want to attend and judge, would that qualify for recurrency?
Yeah, oh, definitely. You can the rules are currently set up so that we have sort of two levels of competition. One level is at the national level, so that's a pretty significant competition. The other one is at a lower local level, whether it be provincial or even smaller than that. There are certain minimum qualifications in some areas where you need to have a certain number of competitors, but in most cases that number is pretty low, and that is something that we can work around.
Okay, good. So I'll keep that in mind. For example, we have one coming up in August, so I'll keep in touch with you.
Sure.
Thanks for the question, Brian. Thanks for the answer, Randy. Any other questions? Seeing no questions, unless Michelle sees something in the chat, we shall continue on. Next, we have our awesome Canberra editor. I think we all know who that is. If you don't, you better start reading about her. Anna, floor is yours.
Thank you, Kanina. Can everyone hear me? I'm always worried about my mic situation. Excellent. Perfect.
We can hear you.
Thanks. I'll keep this short and sweet. Like every other year, we ran another 5 issues, 4 of which were 48 pages. So with the exception of our August-September issue, it was 52 pages. We always have one issue that's a little bit more full than the others. More people tend to write towards the middle or end of the summer, because that's when all the fun happens. So yeah, it was actually a very successful year, despite the ongoing issues with COVID. It was somewhat quiet at quite a few drop zones, like as opposed to previous years before COVID. So not as many events, but the events that did happen across Canada, 95% of my submissions were from people writing in from those events or experiences that they had over the summer. So I was really grateful for that. I only really had to reach out 5% of the time to certain drop zones that had events, and just I saw it on Facebook and I would reach out to the drop zones, and I would always usually have someone come back and write. So I was very appreciative of that. It makes my job a lot easier when readers participate and write in. So yay. Vic, as far as our team, Vic continues to be our graphic designer. He's doing fantastic work for anyone who, does read and look at the magazine. The layouts are always crisp and super well designed. So very happy and super stoked that he signed on for another year. As well as Ned. Ned manages advertising, super grateful for her. For those of you who don't know, she used to be the editor before me, so I'm always hearing feedback from her on how to push the magazine forward. And also she is doing just a phenomenal job in getting advertising, which segues into new news this year. We are digital. I know we've been talking about it for a very long time, but Canberra is now digital and it is accessible on the CSPA website. And because of that, Ned has been able to be a little bit more flexible in keeping advertisers, as before advertisers were dropping out just because we weren't digital. So now that we are, more have signed on, and there's more flexibility for Ned to outsource and look for new advertisers. So that's very exciting, new opportunities for us. We also have a dedicated translator team, very excited about them. They still are so good to us and continue to translate articles, both English and in French. So very grateful to them. Obviously, Canberra would not exist without them. So very happy about that. An ongoing struggle that we're having, that we're kind of having to continue to work towards in 2022, is the rising costs of paper. Due to sourcing issues because of COVID. It actually changes almost weekly, so I can never really get a good quote really anymore. It changes all the time. So as paper costs rise, it's kind of hard to keep it sustainable. So we're having to look at other options. So this year we might see slight changes in the magazine, paper texture wise. I know a lot of people out there might not notice, but for some of us paper nerds, it might be a little obvious. So if there's any changes, we're going to keep them very slight, but that's something that might be happening this year. As far as 2022 is looking, same team. I'm still here. Thank you, everyone, board members, for always giving approval and feedback. It's always appreciated. Love you guys. Yeah, that's me.
Thanks, Anna. It looks like we already have a question here from Rob. Rob has a question.
Okay, am I unmuted?
Yes, you're good to go.
Great. Okay. Yeah, this is for Anna in regards a couple of things. First off, our drop zone this summer is hosting Op Pegasus, which is inviting ex-military and serving military and first responders to come and attend one of 3 camps that we're running this summer. So we would that be something that we could submit an article to? I think it's good PR for CSBA as a whole.
Absolutely. That sounds amazing, Rob. Please send it in.
Okay, and on another note, as the new owner of Flying High Manufacturing, we would like to put an article in with your magazine.
Oh, amazing. Okay, perfect. That's something that we can definitely talk about and potentially involve Ned as well if it's advertising towards your new company. So I would love to chat more with you about this and definitely always send in articles. I never really reject any. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for the questions, Rob. Thanks, Anna. Any other questions? Rob, can you take the moment to unraise your hand? Thank you. Any other questions? No, perfect. Seeing no questions, we'll continue on. Thanks, Anna. Thanks for hiding, Dave. Next up, we have a motion. Thank you to everyone. I think it's easy to see our committees have been wonderfully busy this past year with many new initiatives for us to look forward to. This motion is made by Skydive Osaga Beach. This motion is seconded by Northern High Skydivers. It is moved and seconded to adopt the following motion. Be it resolved that all reports be accepted as presented. Does any member wish to debate this? Do we have any objections, Michelle?
Nada.
I'm seeing none. Perfect. We'll take that as no debate. We'll carried. If you haven't already done so, please register your vote using Simply Voting. Next up, we all need a break.
So the members that got these in the mail, you guys can follow along. Basically, if you didn't already know, CSPA has 3 funds. One is general, which is filled with primarily affiliation fees, school fees, certificates, ratings, and drop zone fees. This year was, again, better than last year, which we anticipated as the world sort of managed COVID. And like I said earlier, we're hoping that it's going to get better next year and those numbers will climb back to normal to what we had in 2019 and prior. The defense fund didn't take in much revenue, and you'll see lower in the expenses that it actually ran a deficit. We paid out quite a bit more, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. The team fund had the same main funds come into it, which is $5 from every registered participant affiliation, plus the donations that are team specific or discipline specific, and then the interest generated from the fund. It only paid out to 1 competitor in 2021, which was Joey, who went to Mondial. Kanina, if you want to scroll down a little bit. So on the expense side, we had standard insurance costs, which go up every year. Last year, we got lucky. I think it only went up about 13%. This year, we've already budgeted for a 20%, and hopefully it won't be more than that. And that's a standard increase that we're going to see year after year. The market's been really hard with COVID, and right now we pretty much only have 1 insurer that's willing to work with us. So we don't have a whole lot of options for negotiation. BOD and committee costs were much lower, again, because we moved to virtual meetings because of COVID. So that sort of helped save some money. And on the general fund, we have a little bit of a small surplus. The defense fund showed a net loss, as I discussed, and that's because we paid out a lot more in legal fees. So this is the closest we've ever been in a while to its cap. So when the defense fund hits 125,000, we start diverting the $5 from each affiliation from the team fund to refill the defense fund. So a couple more big bills or a bad year, and that fund is going to have to be topped up again. Next page. Cash flows. Nothing much to say. General terms, we've had a positive operating cash flow, and with that, we were able to invest into GICs with the excess. You can scroll down to the balance sheet, and I'm going to credit Monique with all of this. So basically, you can see that all three of our funds have a positive balance, which means they're all self-supported. Again, we've already talked about the defense fund. We'll have to be careful with that over the next few years. And the general fund has equipment and assets of just over $500,000, and our only significant liability is to provide the services to membership and affiliation fees, which is a healthy position that will support us in the future of either break even or some small loss general operations. Any questions on the financial statements before Kanina calls a vote? I very briefly went through them. All right, Kanina, back to you.
Thanks, Michelle. This motion is made by Fizzy Skydivers. This motion is seconded by Descenders Para Club. It is moved and seconded to adopt the following motion. Be it resolved that the November 30th, 2021 financial statements compiled by St. Arnaud Pinsent Steeman can be accepted as presented. Does any member wish to debate this? I don't think there's any objections unless Michelle tells me otherwise. Therefore, if you haven't already done so, please register your vote using Simply Voting. Continuing on to the next item, appointment of auditors. Be it this motion is made by Descenders Para Club. This motion is seconded by Skydive Saga Beach. It is moved and seconded to adopt the following motion. Be it resolved that St. Arnaud Pinsent Steeman be appointed as auditors for fiscal year December 1st, 2022 to November 30th of 2023. Does any member wish to debate this? No, I don't think so, unless Michelle tells me otherwise. Does she see something? We will continue on. If you haven't already done so, please register your vote using Simply Voting. Next item, special business. There was no special business submitted by the deadline. So yay, next slide. Well, all right, welcome back. I would like you to now invite Michelle on behalf of Ian Flanagan to present the budget for the remainder of the 2022 as well as the 2023 fiscal year. Michelle, the floor is yours.
Yep, you want to flip to the next slide? So bear with us. I know these numbers are relatively small, but it was the best to show you. If you guys look at the 5 columns, 2019 is the last normal year that we had, and then 2020 was the first year of COVID, and last year being 2021 year end. So the goal for us is to try to return back to 2019 numbers, but it's going to take us some time to build back up there. So the green column is what our budget is for this current fiscal year, which we're already a few months into, and then 2023 being the next fiscal year, which we'll actually readjust closer to and reevaluate next year at the next AGM. So specific things to highlight, we're hoping to have a slight more increase into normal affiliation fees. So we're looking at budgeting for 2850 members. And then probably keeping about the same for COPs with the ultimate goal that we'll actually sell higher than that. Demos are going to come back, which we're super excited for. I know we've already had some requests coming in and people asking and inquiring. And everything else is pretty much standard from the past years. Are there any questions about the general revenue membership section? Kanina, you'll have to moderate for me now. Next slide then.
2 years in a row.
So the drop zone school fees, in the first year of COVID, you'll note those numbers are really low because we actually waived the membership fees for the drop zones, the PSOs, and the clubs. There are some drop zones that chose to pay in advance and avoid any fee increases for the next year. So that's the $39.75 that you see. Last year, all those fees came back, and we're looking at a little bit more normal for 2022 and 2023. The numbers that you see there in the green and the blue are accurate based on what our current membership is. Jennifer, I see a hand up.
Thank you. Quick question, Michelle. Am I seeing correctly that the temporary memberships are not bringing in much revenue?
I under budgeted last year. I think we had about 18 of them. They don't bring in a lot, but we're also not relying on that as revenue. For us, it's kind of just extra in the pocket. It's sort of how we're looking at it. But they don't bring in much, but they're also very new. And the last 2 years are not really a good gauge of what we could bring in either. So we'll see how this year goes.
Okay, thank you.
Campera had a little bit of a drop in advertising this year. Again, COVID's been really hard for a lot of advertisers, not just us, but we're returning back to the goal of bringing in about $25,000 in revenue for the next 2 years. Operations, you guys are looking at the investment incomes. Investments right now, just as a whole, are really difficult and we're not bringing in a whole bunch of revenue, but at least we've locked into a longer term. So we're guaranteed a good amount of investment revenue rather than potentially dropping in the next few years again. Any questions on, that's the end of the revenue section. All right, next slide.
Jen, can you unraise your hand, please? That's okay. Thank you. I'll go with it. Unless there is other questions.
I don't have any other hands.
Let's keep going.
All right, expenses, payroll is pretty general. The rest of the other expense sections are relatively the same. I'll highlight the officer and director insurance. We've signed a 3-year contract, so we're going to have the same price for this year and next year. And then everything else is pretty much standard across the years. The Aero Club membership, we're going to budget a little bit more, and that's again assuming that we're going to raise in membership, which means by default we're going to have to pay more. The liability insurance, you can see again every year we have to pay more, so we're budgeting a higher increase with the hopes that it won't be 20%. Next slide. The office insurance, we're seeing only a 5% increase, which is super manageable. So we're going to keep going forward with that. It was a big savings over COVID, but the government knocked us $8 off of our licensing fee, really saved us some money. And everything else is pretty standard for what we're looking at for the future. You'll see a big jump in translation budgets, and that's because a bunch of our committees have multiple manuals projected in the next few years that are going to need to be translated. Next. Last one for expenses. Again, you saw a really big drop in committee and board expenses because we were having primarily virtual meetings, and a lot of our events that we planned on going to were either canceled or postponed. So 2022, you're going to see a higher budget, again, because we're looking at going back to our normal processes. And then in 2023, a little bit of a gap year as some of our committees have opted to go to every 2 years meetings. Roy, go ahead.
Hi there. Just a quick question about the bank charges and interest expense.
Yep.
Seems rather high. Are we?
Every piece of revenue pretty much that we take in comes via credit card. So that's all the fees that we pay out. And it's actually, the fees we pay are pretty low in comparison to what an average consumer would pay because we're a charity. And so the more revenue we make, the more fees we have to pay. But it's all credit card charges.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Competition expenses. Last year, again, you see that there was a nationals, and 2023 will also be a nationals. And we did pay out team support last year to one athlete, and this year is a big world championship, so we'll be paying out more in team support there. And Campera, pretty standard expenses, but we added a little bit extra budget to the digital platform. We're looking at archiving some of our old issues into electronic format. Again, you can look at the trend of the defense fund down below towards the bottom. We spent $18,700 last year, which was a big chunk. We budgeted 10,000, but it's impossible to know how many applications are going to come in. A big line item that I forgot to mention above that brings the net income to a deficit of almost 130,000 is this year we have to pay back a $30,000 loan that we got from the government during COVID. So that's why this year looks a little bit larger than all the other years, is because of that $30,000 one-time payment, and which we got 10,000. So it was a $40,000 loan. We got to keep 10, we repay back 30. So that's why that line item is a little bit larger. Next slide. And this slide basically shows you the sum of all the accounts. So the ones that we're looking at specifically are the general income and loss. That's the overall deficit that we're projecting. Again, 101 minus the 30 one-time payment is about 70,000. And we're still working with our committees to try to see where we can minimize expenses, because we know that long-term, this deficit is not sustainable. Any questions before Kanina moves for an approved budget?
I give it 5 days of that.
All right, Kanina, all you.
Seeing no questions. Thank you, Michelle. This motion is made by Northern High Skydivers. This motion is seconded by Fizzy Skydivers. It is moved and seconded to adopt the following motion. Be it resolved that the budget for 2021 to 2022 be accepted as presented. Does any member wish to debate this? I take that as a no. So if you haven't already done so, please register your vote using Simply Voting. The second motion, this motion is made by Descenders Para Club. This motion is seconded by Northern High Skydivers. It is moved and seconded to adopt the following motion. Be it resolved that the budget for 2022 to 2023 be accepted as presented. Does any member wish to debate this? And we have Brian raising his hand. Brian.
Yeah, thank you. That was actually for the previous motion. When you said to make sure we vote, I noticed that vote question number 6 is missing.
I don't have that in front of me. Michelle, do you have the Simply Voting?
That was for the special business of which there was none.
Sorry, on the Simply Voting, you're
Correct. On the Simply Voting number 6, it jumps from 5 to 7.
sorry, that's a typo, and that's totally my bad.
Okay, thank you.
Are we good? Do we need any other direction from there? Sorry, I just don't see that particular platform.
No, we're good.
Thank you. All right, does anybody wish to debate be it resolved that the budget for 2022 to 2023 be accepted as presented? Seeing no debates, if you already haven't done so, register your vote using Simply Accounting or Simply Voting. All right, next order of business is the election of directors. There are 3 positions available in accordance with the PIM 3, section 4.10. Oh, Scott of Toronto, do you have a question about the budget or what I'm going over right now?
Yes, please. Sorry to interrupt. Just about the budget quickly. Were we in the red prior to 2019?
Every year we always budgeted in the red, and then we never actually spent what we budgeted. So we usually ended up with either a very small deficit or a slight not deficit. So again, we're trying to get into more realistic budgeting, and that's a long-term process that we're working on.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. Can you please lower your hand too? Thank you. Sorry, continuing on the next order of business, there are 3 positions available in accordance with PIM 3, section 4.1. 2 incumbents have sent in their intention to remain on the board. This leaves 1 position open. No applications have been received by the record date. Therefore, in accordance with section 4.1, does any member wish to make a nomination? I'm taking that as no nominations. Therefore, it is proposed to declare myself, Kanina Vanstone, and Gord Govin to the Board of Directors. This motion is made by MSPA. This motion is seconded by Northern High Skydivers. It is moved and seconded to adopt the following motion. Be it resolved that the incumbents Gord Govin and Kanina Vanstone remain on the board. Does any member wish to debate this? Seeing no debate, thank you. If you haven't already done so, please register your vote using Simply Accounting or Simply Voting. Why am I going to counting? I don't know. Continue on. This last section of the AGM recognizes the many accomplishments and achievements of CSPA skydivers. This is the fun area, folks. Not that the other areas weren't fun, but this is a little extra fun. Oh, sorry. Yep, is that right? That was right. Sorry. The first award goes to a long-serving instructor, coach, learning facilitator, and past coach working committee member whose efforts are deserving of the Kathy Johnson Service Award. I am honored to present this award to Pierre-André Gauthier. Yay! Next up, this volunteer has worked quietly behind the scenes on CSPA's information and technology area. He was available to solve and help with many of those software, data, and internet requirements for an extended period of time, and is still very active in helping the office. Additionally, he is currently serving as a CSPA rated judge. There is no denying that he deserves this award. I am honored to present this award to Mr. Brian Cole. Yay! And I didn't think Pierre isn't on, is he?
He is not, but Brian is. I'm going to wait.
Brian is. That's what I thought.
Soon enough.
Brian,
Probably
did you
not.
wish to acknowledge anything? Don't feel like you are obligated. There's Brian.
Hi there.
Thanks
How you
for all
doing?
the work you do.
I'm speechless. I'm absolutely speechless.
I find that hard to believe.
And for those of you who know me well, that's actually quite an accomplishment.
Well, congratulations, Brian.
Oh, I honestly, I don't think it's deserved, but you know, it's I don't know what to say. I wasn't expecting this at all.
There are people who think otherwise, obviously. So thank you.
You guys mean the world.
Thanks, Brian. We'll continue on. There's one more for the Kathy Johnson Award. Lastly, since his first jump on June 6, 1993, he has been an active mentor to new and old skydivers alike in both CSPA and the sport of skydiving. He has worked in the sport since his 10th jump, beginning as a packer and manifest, then working his way up by the ranks by earning almost every possible CSPA rating. He achieved his JM rating in 2000, Tandem and SSI in 2004, SSE in 2007, and Tandem Examiner since 2016. He has also been instrumental in the rigging scene in Alberta since 2004. Now with almost 29 years, he just started a year after he was born, of service to the sport at the local and provincial levels, he has made an immeasurable impact on the sport by earning his CSPA C, USPA D, FAA Senior Rigger, CSPA Rigger Rating, C1, C2, JM, GCI, SSI, SSE, PFF, and Strong Tandem Examiner ratings, and ABCDEFG. He regularly volunteers to help course conductors with evaluation jumps for C1 and C2 and PFF courses, and has most recently taken on the secretary role with the Alberta Sport Parachuting Association since 2021. There isn't a skydiver in the province who hasn't been influenced by his kind and knowledgeable approach to teaching, and he always makes himself available for any questions and safety briefings on the drop zone. His quiet leadership has impacted skydiving in a prolific way, and he continues to be a role model for new skydivers in terms of sport safety, skill development, and ongoing dedication to the sport. I am honored, very honored, to award this to Dave Withrow. Yay! If anybody doesn't see that picture, Anna's got a nice bottle of
Champagne for breakfast.
champagne.
When you were making your speech, I was like, hey, I did my first jump on that day. But it's pretty cool. There's a pretty big list of people with this award, and I don't know what to say. Thanks very much for voting for me. I don't know how the process works, but wow, that's pretty cool. Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you, Dave. Essentially, people thought of you and you just showed up, did all the work. Thank you.
I was wondering why
lots
Anna
of work.
invited me over today.
Thanks, Anna.
Is it
Congratulations, Dave.
non-alcoholic? Good, good, good.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
You're welcome. We'll continue on. All right, Glenn R. Masterson Memorial Trophy. We have a huge contestant for this one. This individual has made an outstanding contribution in sport of skydiving in Canada as a volunteer over the past 35 years. Some of the achievements are as follows. In the 1980s, served as a treasurer of the BC Sport Parachute Council and helped to establish the council on the internet. In the early 1990s, they enrolled in the CSPA judges training course and quickly advanced through Canada's rigorous progression process and received their FAI judge rating in 1995. Over the years, they have become rated in most of the skydiving disciplines and have been both event and chief judge at both Canadian and US nationals. They have served for many years on the CSPA competition and judging committees. In 2010, she became the first Canadian woman to be chief judge at a World Parachuting Championship. Since 2010, up to the present day, she has judged at numerous international competitions in various capacities, event, chief, jury. For many years, she's been CSPA's delegate to the International Skydiving Commission. Her international role has expanded over the years to include being chair of the ISC Canopy Formation Committee and a member of the ISC Judges Committee. As well as one time, she was responsible for maintaining the ISC International Judge Database. In 2020, she was elected to the ISC Bureau and holds the title of Vice President. Most recently, in recognition of her international contribution in 2021, she was awarded the FAI Leonardo da Vinci Diploma. If it's not obvious by now who we're honored to present this award to, Rena Gallo. Yay! So deserved, hardworking. Rena, is there any chance you want to say a couple words? Don't feel obligated, but you deserve a little bit of time here.
Well, thank you very much. I was not expecting that. Thank you very much. That's all I can say.
You bet.
Yeah, I thought,
so deserved.
I thought Brian was speechless. I've never seen Brian speechless before. I just don't know what to say except thank you very much. It was very unexpected. Thank you.
Thank you for everything that you do, Rena. Seriously, thank you. And yeah, thanks so much, everyone. We will continue on. This now concludes the 2022 AGM. On behalf of the Board of Directors, we wish to thank everyone for coming, watching, and listening and putting up with me. Thank you. We look forward to seeing what this season comes up with, and be safe, blue skies. Our last order of business, this motion is made by Descenders Para Club. This motion is seconded by Skydive with Saga Beach. It is moved and seconded to adopt the following motion. Be it resolved that this 2022 AGM be adjourned at 2:18 Eastern Standard Time. Does any member wish to debate this? Probably not. And if you do, you've got problems. If you haven't already done so, please register your vote using Simply Voting. Thanks for coming. If you have any questions, please email the office or any committee member or any board member. Thank you. Michelle, do you want to add in?